Welcome back to Python programming from beginner to programmer. In this video segment, we are going to examine how we could execute SQL group by command together with a special keyword with in SQL in order to achieve certain means of data extraction. So we do all these by Python's interface with SQLite. If you are just joining us in this video segment here, definitely have a look at previous video segments. The way we drive SQLite via Python scripts is basically made up of three blocks as colored here. And just remember that you must always have the yellow block, the green block, and then the white block, right? So the yellow block performs the import and creates a connection to the database. That's the initialization part. Then you will have varying length of the green block where you do a lot of things like reading, writing, and updating of the data with the database. And finally, we close the cursor and the connection using the .close methods. So in this video segment, we want to try out our hands on group by. Now remember, in the database essential videos, we have already learned what group by does to the rows of data in the database. So group by, essentially we feed it with a column and it will find the unique values in that column and any other rows that also have the same unique value will be grouped together, upon which we can perform some sort of aggregation function, such as adding up the salaries, finding the average age, performing the maximum and minimum, and so on. So it is very, very useful. We are also kind of reminded that in data analytics video segments that we discussed earlier, in pandas, there is also a group by command that does this in a similar way. Now, here in SQL, the group by is strictly by the row values in a column. Yep. So it finds the unique values and then group them together and then perform some sort of aggregation function. So always remember group by and aggregation function. They're all always kind of together. The other new keyword that we want to learn here is the with. With provides us a means of labeling a temporary table output so that we can reference to that temporary table output. So outputs from selects are often in the form of table, and that table is actually the database form of table. But it comes without a name, so it's not like create 10 table as the content of select. So with the with keyword, we are able to name that temporary table, such as this. So we select everything from table, group by, or without the group by. So we have a table here in the bracket, yes. But we want to name it as temp table. So we can say with temp table as. Unfortunately, it's not saying something like name this bracketed select as temp table. That would have been much nicer. So it's using the keyword with. Definitely don't mix up with the with keyword in Python, which is having a totally different meaning. All right, it provides a new scope and performs everything within the scope of the with, and it's meant to be sort of a self-encompassing envelope to make sure that everything happens within the with and everything is done nicely before it exits the scope of with. So in Python, the with totally has a different meaning. This SQL with, you can just think of it as naming the temporary table, giving it a name, that's all. Yeah. So let's try this setup, which we haven't seen yet, even with the database essentials introductory video segments. What we try to do here is to name the results from this inner select and then select from this temp table. Now, obviously, if we can select all columns, we can also pick and choose, right? So in other words, we are able to first select, then subselect. So for very complicated filtering, sometimes it is only natural or even only possible for us to first perform a select via certain broad-based filter. And then once we get the result, select one more time from here. And it would be cleaner, clearer, and more logical to just perform this complicated select in a two-step manner. So if that's the case, then the with comes in as a very, very convenient tool for us to name them and name that table and then reference that table. So with that said, what we do is we will use the usual 3-block template to access SQL, and then put in the with temp table, select account code and the length of name. Length of name simply converts the named description, all right, into the number of characters. So it's just my way of quickly generating a column of numbers that varies, that isn't always storing 55555 all the time. So the length of name comes in nicely. So we just call it size. So we pretend as if size has been already defined in the table, but because it's a derived data, basically the length of the characters in the column name, so we can just create it this way. So we create these two, or we select these two columns from account, group by account code, all right? And then we select from the temp table everything. And then we fetch all and print out. So what does this mean? We have 10 rows, all right? And we select account code, length, all right, as size. And then we say group by account code. But account code in the account table is basically unique, isn't it? So if we get our reminder again, where is our account? Okay, so it's not there. Let's just quickly do our temp on to have a look. Pi on, sorry. Okay, so here's our pi on and our count, right? So let's open this up. Okay, we have our current set of data like that. And basically, all our account codes are unique because it's a primary key, so it's unique. So when we group by using account code, basically it's not very interesting because every group essentially just has one row. And so when we perform any aggregation function, there isn't any, there is only name length here. Basically, it's just performing on one row. So what we'll see is basically selecting everything, right? Just the two columns, account code and the length. And then we select everything from this temp table. And the fact that it runs successfully and showing us this account code, comma, what is that? The length of the characters in the name description, the name column, but which isn't being selected here, shows that this with actually works and works really well, because when we say select everything from temp table, but temp table we see that it's being constructed with only two columns. It's not taking everything star from the original table account, because by the time it reaches the outside select, the table account is already not referenceable. What is staying in scope is only this temp table. Okay, so we try this out and see. Let's move over to our spider. And we'll just copy from ourselves. All right, everything first. Okay, so we have this yellow section, importing, and I did this additional import OS, change directory to my working directory, which is pi on here. And you can change or rewrite this as your the path to your own working directory. And we want to open the account data